Well, hello again, folks, and welcome to my Shellbuzzy House Smart Coffee Break. And I tell you, we're not going to go down the drain today. We're going to talk about drainage because I've got Bob Wilde with me from our House Smart Home Services, and he's in the business of drainage. And his company's name is DrainRock. How you doing, Bob?
Excellent, Shell. How are you?
Oh, top drawer. I tell you, it's always nice to have the pros come in and just bring about the information that our listeners and our viewers right now here on the coffee break are wanting to hear. Now,
very happy to be here.
Well, drainage. Drainage is one of those things. We call it drainage. We call it drain systems. We call it perimeter drainage. We call it, so many different terminologies. But it's the drainage around your footings, folks, that is taking the water away from your footings so they don't have wet feet into a storm sewer system. And if you do get blockage in there, this is a guy, Bob Wilde, that comes out with his crew and fixes it. Now, tell the folks out there just the number of problems that can take place in that drainage, perimeter drainage system.
Well, you know, Shell, there's no doubt at this time of year we've gone through a really dry summer, and all the debris and sediment within the piping systems have probably hardened, and that alone can prevent water from getting through. It can be iron oxide, it can be clay residue, it can be needles from the gutter and eaves troughs that come down into the piping system. It can be a number of different things that cause water or prevent water from flowing through the piping system and into the storm.
That's one thing right now. In most communities here in Greater Vancouver, and keeping in mind the coffee break goes everywhere right across the globe, but is there not some rules and regulations of putting your gutter system or your eave trough for you Easterners, because it is eave trough back east and gutters here in the west, of putting all that needles and leaves and debris down into the perimeter drainage?
Yeah, and it's changed over the course of time in every different area. Even within our local area, it has changed. From one area at a time, we had to have our roof water spill onto the surface, saturate through the ground, and the water itself would get into the perimeter drains. Another period of time or another area municipality would allow us to put our roof water directly into the lower perimeter perforated drainage system. In most current building code situations, we have an upper system and a lower system. So all of that lower water from the ground would go in through the perforated pipe into the storm sump and out to the storm sewer connection at the property line. And then the roof water would just be into a solid piping system that would go out there as well. So it really is different in every single area. And that's part of why we need to go to every house that we look at,
right,
to properly diagnose which avenue we think would be best to move forward with a service or with a cleaning or with a problem solving. It's not always just send the same people with the same equipment. Every house is different.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned during your discussion there on the perimeter drainage, the residual that is in the pipe now, and with the dry period, hardening up, that the water that now, for example, once we get into the rainy season, once it is now directed at the perimeter drainage or groundwater coming up because of the rain and snow melts that we can look forward to down the road, when it enters the pipe, that hole or that drainage volume is reduced major-wise. And if it builds up, then you got foundation and you got leaks in the basement, you got leaks in the crawl space. How do you really get around that? Is it the camera the answer to go down and find out exactly what's happening?
You know, the camera is a great evolution in drain tile repair, replacement, and service. It allows us to pinpoint specific areas of concern, such as broken pipes, collapsed pipes, rocks or debris that are inside, root challenges that are there, pipes that are graded in the wrong direction. Maybe they've settled over the course of time, and even trying to find out where something may drain to. It can be successful. But inserting a camera into a drain line that has debris or sediment inside it would do nothing but show us a clouded camera lens. So the first step always for us is to attempt to clean the drain tile. So we utilize...
That's a hydroclean.
Exactly. We utilize high pressure water at 5,500 psi of water pressure at 4 gallons a minute to go through and clean the inside walls of the piping system. it's the smallest investment and the greatest reward
Right.
in drain cleaning services and problem solving. So if we go through the hydro flushing process, we flush from the storm sump out to the municipal connection. We clean around the entire home, and we clean the sump out itself. Then if we find challenges, an area that we couldn't get through, then we would actually utilize the video camera to find out why we couldn't get around a certain area.
Okay, well, two questions right there, Bob. One being, if you, as a homeowner, phone a company to come in and clean the drains, and they show up with an auger type of machine, and the other question I have relevant to that is, what sort of terminology, in your particular case, your company's name is DrainRock. In fact, DrainRock relates to what you put around the pipe. But the question is this, do they still allow big old pipe in restoration projects?
Yeah, unfortunately, when we talk about drainage construction, we quite often at the municipal level hear the term minimum code requirement. And so minimum code requirement would be in applications of less than 4 feet of backfill, having big O pipe. We don't install big O pipe. We know that the ridges catch material. We know that the pipe can settle. It can look like a snake in the ground, if you will, with high and low spots. We know it's so soft and flexible that it can be squished or crushed. And we know that we probably remove and replace and repair more Big O than any other product in the ground.
And one of the things, folks, I want to make you really aware of, we have nothing to grind. We have no axe to grind with Big O. It's the perforated pipe that looks like black rings. So we're not putting any bad mouthing on the product. It's just a matter of what can be done with it. I've installed it in the years gone by, and you can put it up over a hump, whereas you put in PVC pipe, and the white pipe, the 10-foot lengths, has got to be going in at whatever pitch or slope that you want it to be, because there's no grace factor on that. You just don't go up and over anything with it.
Yeah, the Big O comes in a roll, and it's very flexible. And, you know, in yard drainage applications, it can be acceptable. There's a number of places where it could certainly be used. But with the ridges in our specific soil conditions,
Yeah.
they do tend to have debris build up on them.
Right.
And utilizing, with your first question about the old snake or roto type of machine, the strength of the steel cable is stronger than the pipe itself, and you could auger a hole right through the side of the Big O.
How do you go around the corners with an auger?
Yeah, you can't. And really the bigger factor is that you would just auger a hole through the soil and debris, but you would never draw that soil and debris back out again. So, you know, the mechanical snake or electric snake was used more so for solid lines
Right.
that maybe had roots growing in on an outgoing sanitary line. That made sense to clear the blockage. But when it comes to drainage related challenges, we actually want to clean and remove the debris from inside the pipe, and then insert the camera following if we find something to prove that we've actually gotten all the debris out. Typically our crews flush until the water comes back completely clean. As long as that takes, they're there to do that.
You're there to do the job. But also, a number of homeowners that may have bought a home that could be, 10 years, 15, 20, 40, whatever years old. And some homeowners of the past ownership have landscaped right over top of their sumps. That collector sump where all your perimeter lines come back and meet, and then from that point to the outfall to the sewer system, the storm sewer system. But in some cases, who can find it? Yeah. Other than you people go out and you go out with a prod and you find where it is, and you end up very lucky at the end putting rings on top in order to identify and say to the homeowner, don't bury it.
Yeah, I mean, the building code requirement, again, is to have the sump level and visible at the time of final inspection. And then from that time of final inspection, when the home is built, moving forward 10, 15, or 20 years, like you say, yeah, a lot of landscaping can change, and quite often it can be covered over. And we do utilize a number of different tools, depending on the district, the municipality, or the city. For instance, within the city of Surrey, they have some drawings that are accessible by us as a contractor to have within about a 24-hour period. So when the original inspection was done on the drain tile, a site plan was filed with the city, and so we're able to get a general idea of where we should be looking.
Right.
Other areas mark the curb with a saw cut mark on the curb, but there's still many where we're just using logic or experience,
Right,
and a prod, as you say, to try to find it, because that really is the heart of the drainage system. It's where water comes in, it's where water goes out. It may have a one-way backflow valve which could be plugged, it could be full of debris or sediment. It's really our access point into the drainage system to be successful. And there again, why each job, before we assess what the right avenue to take is, I need to go out and take a look and see if we can find that.
That's the point that I'd like to make, folks. You heard Bob say he goes out to make sure of the potential problems that may be there. I think about the younger people today, and certainly middle-aged people and seniors, buying homes that are of the age that could very well have leakage in the basement, wall cracking, plugged perimeter drains, and when they have a home inspection, before they finalize the sale, I mean, a home inspector doesn't have equipment that's going to say yes or no to a potential drainage problem. And drainage problems, folks, are, in some cases, expensive. And your initial flush out, I think, is a very good point that you make. And I always use the term, when in doubt, don't pout. Let Shell help you out. All we're doing is bringing the information to the video, or the coffee break in this case, talking to the professionals that are involved in drainage, that they could end up with a very major concern buying a home. Whereas if there was some indication that, I quite often say when they call me, because they'll phone me, the potential homeowner will phone me and say, Shell, I really like this house, but I have a feeling of concern about landscaping, drainage. I hear you talking about drainage and what have you. What should I do? And I'll say, subject on the potential purchase price and document, that you put subject to a drainage evaluation. Because, hey, whatever you spend on that initial underground hydroflush, that amount of money is peanuts compared to what that's going to be in the value of the home in the end.
No, you're spot on with that, and we do a lot of work with home inspectors. We've spoken at their annual general meetings, educating 150 or 200 home inspectors on what to look for, from sunken concrete to foundation cracks, to efflorescence on foundation walls or slabs, to moisture readings. But at the end of the day, we encourage all of them to call us, to have me come out and take a look, and we do that as a service to them. We do that as a service to the homeowner. Mm-hmm. Every house is different, every building code is different, and every house needs to be evaluated on its own merits. For somebody today, with real estate costs the way they are, to spend a little bit of money and do an exploratory work quotation, mm-hmm. which is getting in and doing a hydroflushing and a video inspection, purchasing a $1 million or $2 million home, and having some sense of knowing that the drainage is in acceptable condition is prudent. The last thing you want to do is move in and find a problem.
Exactly. And what I say in some cases to the home seller, the home owner now who is selling the home, why not have this done before you put it on the listed MLS market? Because when the potential buyer comes in, and they've already talked to some of the neighbors in the area, because people are getting to the point now they don't mind going up and knocking a door or two doors away from the home that they're potentially going to buy and say, you have any problems around here? Water, pooling, backyards, that sort of thing. But have that in place before such time as you list it. And then when they come in, that potential owner or buyer, which will become the owner, but here is what we've had already done on this project, on this home.
Yeah, and we have that for sure. We have a number of people each month that call us, and they want to do their diligence before they list a house. Also, to take away the right of somebody to negotiate a lesser price, yeah, based on there may or may not being a challenge.
Exactly.
In our industry, one of the things that we've seen as a big change is that today we build houses in areas that we probably wouldn't have built in before. The west side of the city, with great soil conditions, with nice rock and sandy soil that drained really well, has all been overbuilt. And so today we're building in areas of clay, in farmland we're building housing subdivisions, in areas of high mineral content.
Yeah.
And so it's all of those areas that have brought a whole new level of concern when it comes to drainage.
Right.
And so I think, if you're living in an area where you're unclear as to what's going on, where there's pooling water on the surface, where your concrete's settling, or where there's a foundation crack, it makes sense to have somebody come out and look at it,
Right.
and to see if that ends up being something that should be dealt with. At least you have it in writing that here's a solution to the challenge. Whether you deal with it today or you deal with it down the road, that's entirely up to you. But at least you have it in writing that here's a professional way to have it fixed and have it dealt with.
And you've done a lot of work throughout the greater Vancouver area, as a lot of drainage people across the country, that you could very well be making a call at a home where your comment might be, well, just 2 doors down and across the road, we actually found this. And you're right in that same sort of escarpment, so you could have that same problem. So, yes, I would suggest that you do something about it. As far as visually you can't. You got to do something out of sight, out of mind. You got to get down in the ground and find out.
Yeah, we really try to take a little different approach here. We don't want anybody making an emotional decision as to how to handle or solve a problem. We want to make an educated decision. We want to be able to utilize the tools that we have through hydroflushing and video camera inspection, or knowledge.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't involve doing work there right out of the gate, but using our knowledge to help guide people in the right direction. And often the service, I liken it to owning a car. If somebody owns a car and today they cost $50, $60, $70, $100,000, we know to change the oil every 3 months. But when it comes to $1 million house, for some reason they just don't know that we need to service the drain tile.
Yeah.
And so servicing the drain tile every 5 years can lengthen the life of the drain tile system far beyond the life that you would ever own the home.
I get asked time and time again that I had my furnace, for an example, away from drainage, but the furnace, I used to have it serviced every 2 years. Is that adequate? And I simply say, would you service your vehicle oil once every 2 years? No. Well, then you're heating your house with a unit that is basically requires that looking into and maintenance. So yes, do it once a year. But it's one of those things that that people tend to look at value versus cost versus planning and acceptance of what has to be done on a regular basis. And I've often used the not only as today when you're talking about different things, and I'll say homes don't come with a diary of what went wrong or what may go wrong. An automobile comes with a complete book of you might say knowledge for that vehicle, but a house is worth how many times? 10 times more, just for deposit's sake, than a car. Mm-hmm. So we got to really evaluate and balance things out as to who we spend the money with. And I just want to, you and I could go on forever, but folks, I just want you to be very much aware, if you're visually viewing this video or if you're listening to it on one of our future podcasts, please look into those very important items called foundation footings and drainage around the footings. And I really was happy that you did mention, you didn't really elaborate on it other than you did mention one for water from the roof, and that's the two pipe system. You got the one for groundwater, and you got one which is a solid line which carries the water from your roof or your gutter systems and into the same catchment sump and off to the storm sewer line. And that costs more money, but on the other hand, you do it once, get it over with, and have it done the right way. And this gentleman here, Bob Wilde of DrainRock, folks, part of our House Smart Home Services for many, many years now, and one that we've got a lot of confidence in, and we want you to give us a call at any time that you want the service of your perimeter drainage, or at least information on the how to, the what to, the where to, the why to, the when to, and who to. And he's a who to. So give us a call. Number's on your screen. Go to our website, askshell.com. And also, please become a member of the Shell Busey House Smart Club because that is something that you're going to get weekly in some cases. You'll get newsletters, you'll get coffee breaks, and monthly you will get a very important monthly issue of a newsletter. It's just that easy. Bob, thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And folks, the coffee break, podcasting, newsletters, I like to keep you informed. That's where I do it today, electronically through the internet. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.